He stood there fidgeting, eyes darting between me and the floor. At first, I thought it was nothing, just nerves. But then he opened his mouth, and what he said made my heart stop. From that moment on, nothing between us would ever be the same. It was a quiet Saturday evening when my son's friend showed up at the house. He said he was just waiting for my son to get ready, but something about the way he lingered in the kitchen felt different. He wouldn't sit down. He paced a little, then leaned awkwardly against the counter, his hands stuffed into his pockets like he was carrying a secret too heavy to hold. I tried to break the silence. "You want some water?" I asked, half expecting him to smile politely and brush it off. Instead, he nodded quickly, almost too quickly, like he just needed something to do with his hands. When I handed him the glass, his fingers brushed against mine for just a second. It was nothing, really just a touch, but the way he pulled back, sharp and nervous, made me notice it, made me wonder. He didn't drink the water. He just held it, staring down at it as if the right words were hidden at the bottom of the glass. Finally, he looked up at me. His eyes were steady now, his jaw tight, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made my chest tighten. "There's something I need to tell you," he said quietly. I froze, his words hanging heavy in the air. There was a tension in his voice I couldn't ignore. I waited, expecting some harmless teenage confession, maybe about trouble at school, or a fight with his parents. But then his eyes met mine, and the intensity there made my stomach flip. He set the glass down on the counter, his fingers trembling slightly, and stepped just a little closer. I can't keep this to myself anymore," he whispered, his voice low but firm. "Every time I come here, every time I see you, I can't stop thinking about you." The words hit me like a wave, knocking the breath from my chest. My son's friend. Younger, forbidden, standing in my kitchen and saying something no one should ever say out loud. I should have laughed it off, told him he was confused, shut it down before it spiraled. But instead, I just stood there, speechless, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. And the worst part, a part of me wasn't shocked. A part of me had already felt it. The way his eyes lingered, the nervous energy that wasn't just shyness. Now it was real. Now the line had been drawn, and I had no idea what I was going to do next. For a moment, I couldn't move. The words replayed in my head like an echo I couldn't silence. "I can't stop thinking about you." I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. My hands tightened around the edge of the counter, grounding me as if I could hold myself steady against the storm his confession had just unleashed inside me. You can't say things like that," I finally managed, though my voice shook. It wasn't firm. It wasn't the scolding tone it should have been. It was soft, almost fragile. He didn't back down. Instead, he took another step toward me, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my pulse quicken. "I know it's wrong," he said, his voice trembling. "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help it, and I don't think you can either." That last sentence cut through me, because deep down I knew he was right. I had felt it before, the way my skin prickled when his gaze lingered too long, the way silence between us carried a weight it shouldn't have. I should have shut it down then and there, told him to leave, told him to never speak of it again. But instead I hesitated, and in that hesitation, I gave him something far more dangerous than permission. I gave him hope. The silence between us thickened, pressing down on me until it felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to look away, to break the tension, but my eyes betrayed me. They stayed locked on his, drawn in by something I couldn't name, something I didn't want to admit. When he took another step closer, the space between us vanished. I could smell his cologne, faint but sharp, a reminder that he wasn't just a boy anymore. He was standing in front of me as a man, and that realization sent a shiver through me. "Please," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "just tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me you felt it too." I should have denied it. I should have turned my back, walked away, ended it before it went any further. But instead, my hands betrayed me. I brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, nervous, and in that small, trembling motion, he saw my weakness. His fingers reached out, grazing mine. Just a touch, light, hesitant, but electric. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, neither of us moved. That single touch carried more weight than words ever could. I could have pulled away. I didn't. And in that tiny choice, the ground beneath us shifted. The moment his fingers brushed against mine, I felt my whole body tense. It was such a small touch, but the weight of it was unbearable. My heart raced in my chest, each beat louder than the last, and I knew I was standing at the edge of something dangerous. I should have pulled away. Instead, I let my hand linger there, caught between us. His thumb brushed gently over my skin, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat. The look in his eyes was pleading, desperate, as if he was waiting for me to either shatter the moment or let it bloom. My silence became its own kind of answer. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body radiating against mine. My back pressed against the counter, leaving me nowhere to go. His hand slid up my arm, slow and deliberate, until it rested lightly at my shoulder. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his breath hot against my cheek. I opened my mouth, but no words came. The truth was, I didn't want him to stop. And then, before I could think, before I could gather the strength to turn away, his lips brushed against mine. Soft at first, hesitant, testing, but real. I froze, my mind screaming at me to end it, but my body betrayed me. My lips moved against his, returning the kiss I swore I would never allow. In that instant, the line we both knew was there vanished. The longer his lips stayed on mine, the weaker my resolve became. I could taste the fear and the hunger in him, and it mirrored the storm inside me. My fingers curled into his shirt, not to push him away, but to hold him there. He pulled back for a second, his forehead resting against mine, both of us breathing hard. "I shouldn't be doing this," he whispered, voice shaking. "But I can't stop." I wanted to tell him to leave, to stop before this destroyed everything. Instead, I whispered, barely audible, "Neither can I." Those words lit something in him. His mouth claimed mine again, harder this time, his hands sliding down my back, pulling me against him. My body betrayed, every ounce of guilt screaming in my head. I leaned into him, craving his touch, my breath catching with every move he made. When his hands roamed lower, brushing against me in a way no one else should have dared, I gasped, but I didn't pull away. The air around us was thick, charged, and every second that passed dragged us deeper into something we both knew we couldn't undo. It wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was the beginning of something that would change everything. He pressed me back against the wall, the closeness of his body making it almost impossible to think. My heart hammered, so loud I was certain he could hear it. His hands trembled, but his grip on me was firm, as if he feared I would change my mind. I should have, God knows I should have, but instead, my fingers slid into his hair, pulling him closer. He groaned softly against my lips, that sound sending a shiver down my spine. "Tell me to stop," he breathed, his voice raw, almost pleading. His eyes searched mine, desperate for an answer, desperate for permission. But my lips betrayed me again. Instead of words of refusal, they brushed against his ear, whispering, "Don't." That was all he needed. His mouth found my neck, his touch bolder now, exploring, claiming pieces of me I hadn't allowed anyone to touch in so long. I bit my lip, fighting back the wave of guilt, but it was swallowed by something far stronger, desire I didn't even know I still carried inside me. Every second pulled us deeper, and the line I thought I'd never cross was now so far behind us I couldn't even see it anymore. His hand slid lower, testing, trembling, but bold enough not to retreat this time. My breath caught in my throat, and when I didn't stop him, he took it as permission to go further. "God, you don't know what you're doing to me," he whispered, his voice broken, like he was fighting every ounce of restraint he had left. I closed my eyes, my body betraying me with every sigh, every arch, every silent plea that slipped past my lips. I wanted to scream at myself to end it, to push him away before we went too far. But instead, I leaned into his touch, guiding him, allowing him. The boy who used to sit at my kitchen table, laughing with my son, was no longer just my son's friend. In that moment, he was a man who wanted me with a desperation that mirrored my own. When he finally pressed against me fully, there was no turning back. The room seemed to vanish, swallowed by the sound of our ragged breaths, the heat of our bodies, the gravity of what we were doing. Every kiss, every touch carried the weight of betrayal, but also the fire of something I hadn't felt in years. And though a voice deep inside screamed that we'd regret this, another part of me, louder, fiercer, whispered that I didn't want it to end. The moment his body pressed harder against mine, I knew there was no undoing what was about to happen. His lips trailed fire down my neck, and my hands clutched at him as if letting go would make the entire world collapse. He whispered my name like a confession, like he had been holding it in for far too long. That sound unraveled me, completely. I should have stopped him then. I should have ended it before the final line was crossed. But instead, I guided him closer, my breath shallow, my heart racing with anticipation I hadn't felt in years. Clothes fell away in a blur, each piece hitting the floor like a drumbeat of surrender. His skin was warm, trembling against mine, and when he finally entered that last space no one else was ever meant to, a sharp gasp escaped my lips. It was wrong. Every part of me knew it was wrong. But the pleasure crashing through me drowned out every warning, every shred of reason. His movements were clumsy yet hungry, desperate, and I matched him, clinging, giving in, wanting more. The room filled with sounds we shouldn't have made, secrets that would never be spoken outside those walls. And in that reckless, breathless moment, I didn't care about the consequences. For the first time in so long, I felt alive, seen, wanted, consumed. And nothing else mattered. When it was over, silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating silence. His chest rose and fell against mine, his skin damp, his breath uneven. For a moment, all I could feel was the warmth of him, the lingering echo of what we had just done. Then reality slammed into me like a storm. The sight of his clothes scattered across the floor, the way his hand still clung to me like he was afraid to let go, it all hit me at once. This wasn't passion anymore. This was betrayal, raw and undeniable. He lifted his head slowly, his eyes searching mine. There was no regret in them, only fear and something deeper. "I don't want this to be the last time," he whispered, almost pleading. My throat tightened. I wanted to answer him, to give in again, to lose myself in that fire just one more time. But all I could think about was my son. His face, his trust, the friendship he thought was unbreakable. I pushed him back gently, trembling. "We can't," I whispered, though my voice cracked with the weight of it. "This can never happen again." But even as I said the words, I knew I wasn't certain. My body still ached for him, my heart still raced, and my mind couldn't erase the memory of how alive I had just felt. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, leaving me alone with the sound of my own ragged breathing. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands, caught between the guilt that burned in my chest and the desire that still lingered on my skin. And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. Life would never be the same again.